stranded on the shoreline there. The ibis is the all-white bird with the bright orange day curved beak. It's a tactile feeder, meaning it hunts by sense of touch. So it probes down into the shoreline or maybe even your lawn in search of its food. That beautiful oyster catcher.
I just realized that was there.
That's the youngest. That little peeping noise was actually that oyster catcher. And there he's moved along to the other side. Oh, and there's its mate. They're almost always in pairs, and there are two of them together there. As their name implies, they do eat oysters, mussels, clams. If you could take a cross section of their beak, you would see that it's triangular in shape because it's really strong. But they'll also eat things like, oh, there's another snowy egret. They'll also eat other things. Oh, there's 3 oyster catchers on the beach now. There are 2 on the left and 1 here closer to those white ibis. That's the oyster catcher, that high-pitched chirping noise. There should be another one. They're almost always in pairs. Love that beautiful bright orange eye ring. Let's take a quick look at one more spoil island before we head over to Pelican Island proper. Another oyster, there's the other oyster catcher. Just on the shoreline there. There he goes. We've got a tricolored heron that just jostled up into the tree. We've got the oyster catcher farthest to the right, a great blue heron. Oh, 2 beautiful snowy egrets in breeding plumage right along the shoreline. The wind is kind of ruffling their feathers, and you can see how lacy and frilly those feathers become during breeding season. An adult pelican coming into that beautiful breeding coloration. Check out the snowies. They have black legs and yellow feet. That's a tricolored heron just off the board now. reason that the refuge exists is because of this one little island. It was once 5.5 acres. It has suffered some pretty serious erosion, but thanks to restoration efforts, it's currently at about 3.25 acres. Home to lots of American wood storks, great blue herons, both white and brown pelicans, snowy egrets, black vultures, turkey vultures. Don't see any little blues yet, but we'll keep our eyes peeled for sure.
So who's in the trees higher?
Okay, so that band of white that you see is primarily the wood storks.
Okay.
Tucked in the trees. Tucked in behind them, we've got at least 4 spoonbills back in there. On the white on the ground, the little white dots on the ground, those are the snowy egrets and the ibis, the white ibis. The big white ones back in towards the right and then on the beach, those are the American white pelicans. They are not nesting this time of year. They are summer nesters and they nest in freshwater wetlands. Yeah, they are our original snowbird. They're literally just chilling out, not worried with finding a mate, not worried with building a nest.
Life's easy right now.
Taking it easy. Oh yeah. We've got some great egrets up there in beautiful breeding plumage. Really frilly plumage. Diffuse great blues. If you look closely at the wood storks, you will notice that their feet are bubblegum pink.
Who's orange? Orange?
What do you see?
Someone has orange legs.
That is the white ibis.
Oh, right. It's like really orange.
When the ibis come into breeding season, their legs, face, and beak will
Ooh,
turn
look at that
dark
one.
red.
Wow.
And there's the wood, the spoonbills kind of jostling.
Yeah.
Really how they get.
Really see it probably in the end. It's tucked in there now. Yeah, but it's not. So there's the pellies on the ground.
That wood stork that's in the water to the right and walking around, you can really get a look at his bright pink feet right now.
Yeah.
Are those 2 great blues up in the sort of higher canopy?
Yes, and that's interesting. So you notice the band of white, and then behind that you'll see great blues a little bit higher.
Yep.
So a lot of times people ask me, how in the world can all these birds get along on this island? They all nest in trees and they're all eating fish, but they all have a slightly different height preference of where they prefer to nest in the trees, and they all have a slightly different depth preference from where they hunt. And so in ecology we call that resource partitioning. It's how all the birds can use all the resources and get along just fine, with one exception. The one thing they fight over on this island is sticks. There comes a juvenile eastern brown pelican to the right. So that guy's not quite a year old. In North America, we only have the eastern brown pelican and the American white pelican as far as pelicans go. The eastern brown pelican's pretty small, weighs about 8 pounds, wingspan about 5.5 feet. The American white pelican is huge in comparison, weighs about 16 pounds, and has a wingspan of 9 to 9.5 feet.
Wow.
You can see those American white pelicans on the shoreline there. landing on the island right now. And farther to the right, just above the water, is the American Wood Stork.
Just
And
coming
the
in.
ones with the black tips, what are which?
So there are 3 different, basically all white birds that have black wingtips. American Wood Storks,
Yeah.
white ibis, and American white pelicans.
Republic.
I just saw one of those woodlands come across there.
Mhm.
Look at him.
Here comes a cormorant to the left. You'll notice that cormorants have to fly more like ducks. They just generally flap and flap and flap their wings. They don't glide much. So this is it. It all started right here. You know, back in 1903, we had the very beginnings of a national park system. But parks are mostly for people, whereas a wildlife refuge, as its name says, is really for wildlife. And so this was pretty forward thinking, because now